It is day 2 of Donald Trump's criminal trial in New York, which, by the way, is wrapping up as of the time of our taping. Trump arrived to court earlier this morning. There he is for the second day of testimony. Now, today, the former National Enquirer boss, David Pecker, is back on the stand. He's testifying about the paper's catch and release technique, where it bought the rights to negative stories about Trump and withheld publishing them so they never became public. Prosecutors allege that this was election interference, while the defense says it is not. Earlier today, Trump was in danger of being held in contempt of court. The judge held a hearing on whether or not Trump violated the gag order in the case. Prosecutors claim he's violated it 10 times. The judge has not yet ruled on that. So what do you think of all of this trial and what David Pecker is actually testifying to? And Tori, will the jury even understand? I think it's important. I know you have some factoids to break it down for us.
And I'm going to explain it like everyone's 5, because that's the best way to do it here. How many people out there thought, did Trump sleep with Stormy Daniels is the trial? I bet a lot of you. That is not the case at all. It's actually about where the money went. So let me explain. Trump is accused of trying to illegally influence the election by kind of preventing any damaging stories by going public, okay? And using that hush money payment as falsifying business records to cover it up. So there's 3 incidences that he did this. 1, he purchased the rights to former Playboy model Karen McDougal's story about an alleged affair. 2, he paid off a doorman, allegedly, at one of the Trump Organization buildings for info about Trump fathering a child out of wedlock, which the Enquirer now claims was deemed untrue. And finally, his knowledge of Cohen's payment to Stormy Daniels. So all this is saying this: he used campaign money, which you can't do, to make sure that his campaign looked safe from hush money from sleeping with people that he shouldn't have been sleeping with. That's sort of what it is. Hiding the money. That's what this trial is.
But it's not illegal to pay someone off for the story, just using campaign funds.
Catch and kill is absolutely legal.
Right.
Absolutely
so that's what I'm saying. In Hollywood, that's called a publicist.
Exactly. But you can't, but a publicist isn't running for something. You can't.
Of course.
Right. Exactly.
But you could still. You don't think politicians do that all the time? It's where they get the money. That's where the confusion is.
And where do you hide it? Because he did hide it, and it's the cover-up. It's always worse than the crime. He hid it poorly, and now they're trying to say you got to be accountable for it.
What if Pecker wins and he goes, ha 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 ha?
I can't. That's good, buddy. Good.
I went the other way with the pun.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Woody?
good one. Do you think it will matter, Al? Let's say that, because Tori just broke it down for us, and at the end of the day, they follow the paper trail and they find him guilty. In the court of public opinion, will what Tori just described matter?
No. But
you don't think so?
No, but I think it would have if this had been like right after the Access Hollywood tapes. When you forget, we've been so inundated with Trump stories that like if we all named 10, we would have a different 10 scandals.
Totally.
But remember, right after Access Hollywood, that was still crazy to see a candidate act like that. And I think the McDougal story coming right on top of that could have been what knocked him off. So really, he made a great decision, quite frankly. It's the reason we're still talking about him. I don't think in the court of public opinion it'll matter too much, because his supporters will say, you know, that I'm sure famous people do this all the time. If a bad story is going to come out, domestic violence, whatever, famous actors, famous people pay for things to go away. So I don't think it'll be that much of a shock.
Let me get to this next beat, because I think it goes into everything of like, how do people telling the story, how do they make sure that they cover it with importance, right? So everywhere you look, this Trump trial is all over the news. But Jon Stewart is now challenging the media, wondering if it's capable of covering the trial in a responsible way. So here's a clip from The Daily Show last night. Take a look.
This trial will obviously be a test of the fairness of the American legal system, but it's also a test of the media's ability to cover Donald Trump in a responsible way.
Shaping up to be the trial of the century.
Maybe the trial of the century.
The trial of the century.
But just might be the trial of the century.
The tax man is here, Donald Trump.
He will finally be forced to face the music.
The legal walls closing in around Donald Trump.
The legal walls are starting to close in on Donald Trump.
Yes, this time, Mr. Bond.
Okay, so Erica, is the media falling into the same old trap and making this a big spectacle rather than covering it like a serious story and really sticking to those facts? Do you think they're even capable of doing that?
No. And I think it's because of the money or lack thereof, or the competition. Like, you cannot compete where you don't compare. And that's where a lot of news organizations are finding themselves, competing in spaces where they don't compare. I have been talking about this for years because I think it is very important to the integrity of journalism that we as a editorial news show are very clear that you are coming to us because you are looking for opinion television.
Yes.
When people come on my page and they're like, you don't have any journalistic integrity, I never said I did, okay? I am a radio girl who got a job cast in LA to come here and give my perspective from the level of understanding that I see and view the world. When people try to give themselves these credentials, and everybody does it, I have listened to podcasts, I have listened to people on YouTube, and they're like, as a journalist, since when? Mm-hmm. What makes you a journalist? Because you have a platform. Editorial journalism, we can have a conversation about. But when we conflate true, unbiased journalism, it makes it dangerous to the actual representation of the truth.
It's very dangerous because it forms narratives. And
Exactly.
I think that there needs to be oversight in legislation. And if this is too much of a slippery slope, please challenge me. But there needs to be a disclaimer. There needs to be a line in the sand that says opinion-based show, news show, and the news shows need to be held accountable. If we find out that there's a certain amount of strikes against them with disinformation, they should be taken off the air. I'm serious.
I thought we were going to see that after the Fox lawsuit. Like, I thought after that they were going to change things.
Well, I think people are changing course of how they intake their news, right? I, for one, listen to podcasts because mainstream media that are quote-unquote journalists during the daytime
Podcasts
and
are
opinion
just as
at
bad,
night.
if not worse, Jeff.
It depends which one you listen to.
True.
And I try to get one that's in the middle and sees both sides. When you're talking about like CNN, obviously you're going all the way to the left. When you talk about Fox News, you're going to the right. NPR, Bill Maher just did something about this. NPR has 87 writers under them. 87 of them are Democrats. You think you're getting an impartial point of view when you're reading or listening to that? You're definitely not.
But do you get that with podcasts either?
Yeah, I listen to Crystal and Sauger, and they're both, one side is one side's the other, and they talk about it. And they don't fight each other, and there's no name calling, and there's no putting that person in a box. I can't stand media that thinks they're impartial, but they're all the way left or they're all the way right.
Don't you agree that's why we need a disclaimer? Like
Absolutely.
The days of Connie Chung and Dan Rather just saying exactly what the facts are gone.
Go all the way back. Walter Cronkite. Remember, you didn't know who he voted for. That was what it was like for our parents. They didn't go and find the narrative.
But let's not romanticize like they weren't being influenced by the White House as well. When there's only one person talking to the country, what do you think? Like the president can't pick up the phone and say, don't make me look bad here? This is always going on, and we have to understand that we're talking about human beings here. And human beings want to feel right when they listen. And if you think that this is how the story went, and then you listen to your news and they tell you, Erica, you're right. Tori, you were right. The president is the worst. Jeff, you are right. The media is the best. Whatever you think, if you keep hearing you're right, that reinforces you to keep watching. And that's what this is all about. Integrity and all that kind of stuff doesn't keep any of these lights on. It's money and eyeballs. And you're going to say what you need to write.
Don't you think we need to fix it, though?
Who's going to do it?
Then it's just going to become state TV. Like, honestly.
It's the business model. Unless we change the entire business structure with Sam, I would love it. Unless we change the business structure of clicks for money, what are we going to do?
But don't forget, a good story broke this whole Trump trial open. So don't forget, good press still happens. Ronan Farrow, all those people that broke this are still out there doing good work. So let's not forget that.
Ooh, good conversation.